Hey everyone, we're here for another quick conversation for the long haul of leadership with Todd Bolsinger, and we're looking at a quote from Steve Cuss today. This is from episode 47, titled Leadership, Anxiety, and Family Systems. And here's what Steve said, and I'll read it twice and I'll read it slowly because it's kind of long with a lot of words. Okay, here we go. He said, differentiation is your ability to notice when you're getting infected by someone else's anxiety and how to stop your anxiety from infecting someone else. So, one more time. Differentiation is your ability to notice when you're getting infected by someone else's anxiety and how to stop your anxiety from infecting someone else. So, very interesting way of describing differentiation using that word infecting, a visceral sort of word almost. Todd, what do you think about that word infecting as a way of talking about differentiation?
Well, this is one of the reasons why I think Steve has been such good help to people because he's first and foremost a pastor. And when he thinks and talks about things like differentiation and anxiety, it's because he's watched it occur in the life of a congregation or in the life of a community. He's not thinking about it like clinically, even though he really does understand all the clinical stuff behind it. And if you pay any attention to when somebody's really anxious in a system, it's contagious. Like anxiety is really contagious, right?
Yeah.
And we know this. Like if you've ever had the experience of having a sleepless night and you quietly wake up your spouse, your wife, and she asks, "What's wrong?" And you go, "Oh, no, go back to sleep." And she goes, "No, tell me. I want to be in it with you." And you tell her, and then she's up all night too.
Right.
Because now you're both worried about it. Anxiety is really contagious. And And once you realize that of how anxiety catches and kind of goes, through a community, through a people, through a nation, like people get anxious and the anxiety grows. When people are anxious, they don't think very well. Trisha Taylor, who's one of my favorite podcasters and writers, says anxiety makes you stupid. Like you don't think very well. And I recently heard somebody else say, and anxiety makes you rigid. What you do with anxiety is you want to get really rigid. You want to get everything that needs to be secure and safe. And so what do you lose? You lose the capacity to think. You lose the capacity to dream. You lose the capacity to be open to risks or new things or new people. And so that contagion can really create a really toxic and dysfunctional system, organization, family, community. So, then Steve starts talking about differentiation as a response to that.
And differentiation. So maybe can you explain a little bit more about differentiation, what that means, and what does that look like? So I'm thinking of a scenario where you're having a conversation with an anxious parishioner, perhaps, or an anxious, elder board or something like that. So what's differentiation, and how does that help us in those kinds of situations?
Yeah. So the language of differentiation comes out of family systems theory. And what it is it's really the way in which a differentiated person is a person with a strong identity who can stay connected in relationship to someone else. So the healthiest marriages or families are where everybody gets to be themselves, but they don't have to cut off from someone else to be themselves. So they're neither enmeshed, which is where you're not allowed to be yourself. You're not allowed to have your own feelings. You're not allowed to have your own experiences. You have to agree with everybody else and go along with everybody else and think like everybody else. That's enmeshment. The other side is disconnection, where you just can't, where you have to cut off from people. Differentiation is the capacity to have a good, solid sense of identity. This is who I am. This is where I start and where I begin. And I can be in relationship with someone else. And when you're able to be in relationship, you're able to literally think to yourself, this person is in crisis and I care about them. So I will pray for them and I will love them and I'll take care of them. But their crisis is not my crisis. It's theirs. When I was first starting in ministry, a guy who was really mentoring me said to me, Todd, get used to saying to people, saying in your mind, how can I help them with their problem? It's not your problem. It's their problem. I want to be of help, but it's not, I'm not taking it on. They need to take it on. I can't be a superhero that solves it for them. And I can't be the savior. They have one. It's Jesus, right? Like my job is to help them with their problem. And so
Yeah.
when people are anxious, differentiated people have the capacity
Yeah.
to be in a problem with other people, but
Yeah.
without getting infected by
Yeah.
the anxiety. And that's
Yeah.
really important. And the other part of his statement, of course, is that when we get anxious, which we do,
Yeah.
good differentiated people won't insist that other people, get
Oh,
anxious
yeah. Right.
also. We can
Right.
say,
Right.
and
This is
there's,
ours. This is mine.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll give you one example from one of my favorite.
Yeah.
I worked with a pastor named Jim Toole. He has now passed on. He had cancer. He died of cancer.
Yeah.
15 years before he had cancer, his wife got cancer. He was my associate pastor. And we were trying to figure out whether I should take a sabbatical and he would be the head of staff. And it just so happened that this cancer of his wife, if it got worse, could progress to the place where it could be really bad right when I was on sabbatical.
Yeah.
So we gathered a group of wise people in our church together, some leaders, and we asked, should I postpone my sabbatical? And what he said was, I remember Jim saying, I actually think I'll be okay. I actually think if anything, the worst happens, so we'll all handle it. But I know that I'm not thinking very clearly right now. Like I really do know that I'm pretty worried. So I trust all of you to make this decision. I want you to know that I'll do my best and that I think I'm okay, but I'm not sure I'm thinking clearly.
Wow.
And we actually, as a group, decided that I would postpone my sabbatical for a year. And Jim was great because he neither had his feelings hurt, like they didn't trust me, nor did he have to insist he was fine. Nor that he just could literally say, I think I'm okay and I'll be fine, but I actually know I'm not thinking clearly right now because I'm really worried about my wife. It was one of the most admirable moments of pastoral leadership I've ever seen.
That's amazing. And some solid self-awareness there, which I think is a big part of differentiation. Oh, that's so good. Well, let me read the quote one more time. This is, again, from Steve Cuss. He said, differentiation is your ability to notice when you're getting infected by someone else's anxiety and how to stop your anxiety from infecting someone else.